Hello and welcome to second lecture in eighth chapter of our comprehensive course on artificial intelligence, machine learning and data science. Now, the name of this chapter is data manipulation with pandas, and basically we want to learn these things: sorting, filtering, grouping and aggregation. We have already covered sorting and filtering. So now we want to cover grouping and aggregation. So let us say grouping by a categorical variable and aggregating numeric data. Okay. First, I'm creating the data frame just for understanding. Okay. And one important thing which we will discuss in this part is that grouping and aggregation are always done one after another. You can see that there are two functions which are almost married to each other, and without aggregation, you will never realize the true power of grouping. So, if you just group a data frame and then don't do anything, don't do any aggregation. Aggregation means what? Either find mean, find sum, find mode, some numerical aggregation operation. If you don't do anything and just group a data frame, then be sure that you are doing some logical error in your programming. Okay, so we will discuss that in this. First, let us create our that same data frame once again. Once again, we are rounding off all metrics to two decimal places so that that lengthy output is not obtained. So you can see that this is my data frame. Okay. Yes. Now this grouped data frame and all I am taking to next cell. Just I first want to this whole thing actually. I just want to print the data frame. That's all. Okay. To just show you that this is our original data frame with which we start our discussion. So this is a data frame. Say I have a firm which operates in 4 departments: food, home, clothing, and electronics, and I work in each region of my country, northeast, southwest, and these are my product IDs and 1 to 20, and these are some product I want to categorize or group this based on some criteria. These are the value of sales for each product ID. This is the price per unit for each product ID. These are the quantity which are sold in west region. Similarly, food for food. Then here again this is the quantity which is sold in south region for food, and so on. Okay. Now this group by. So when I do this group by, then group data can be obtained in this manner. Function is very clear: df dot group by, and we also know the trick that suppose we forgot, then write on what you are applying the group by, just like on what you are applying the sort, net sort values, then df data frame. So similarly here you write df and then press just dot. It will give you what I'm saying is just this much, that df dot and tab and then g. So you will get all functions which are starting with that. You are immediately seeing that group by is there. Put a question mark and you will see the function signature. That is how to use that function. So group by default it takes none argument, but you should give some argument. That is, I want to group by this column or what. Then you have to specify that this is interesting, because this will be required in later discussion. When group by is done, then at that moment by default it also sorts. Sort is equal to true is the default value. Okay. So we will see that it is required in some future discussion. So df dot group by what? Then by department. So that means there are 4 departments. So I want to see how many records out of these 20 records are for food department, how many records are for home department, how many are for clothing department, and how many are for electronics department. But as I said, if I just do this much group by department, then it is almost sure that you are doing something which is meaningless, or which is no fruitful outcome will come from that. You have to always apply aggregation. So here what we are doing is we are aggregating by department. What parameters you are aggregating, that you have to specify. So aggregation can be specified in very succinct manner in this way, where you can use a dictionary and the keys of the dictionary will tell you which column you are aggregating. So you are aggregating 3 columns. For each department you are aggregating sales, you are aggregating price, and you are aggregating quantity. So you are aggregating these 3 quantities for each department. Okay. And aggregating is also a very general word. Aggregating can be finding minimum, finding maximum, finding mean, finding sum. So what you want to find. So that what you want to find, that you have to specify as the value of the dictionary. So this is the key of the dictionary and this is the value of the dictionary. Okay. So if you specify that, then for sales you want to find all: mean, median, standard deviation, minimum, maximum. For price you are just finding mean and median. That is just your choice. If you want to find all for everything, then you can use all 5 also. And for quantity you are finding just sum. Okay. Now this makes a meaningful statement. So first group by over one particular column, say department, and then aggregate over one or multiple columns. If one column is there, then it is fine. You can just write directly also. But if you want to specify multiple column aggregations, it will give aggregation over sales separately in the result. It will give aggregation over price separately and aggregation over quantity separately. And in aggregation also, you may choose to find only one parameter or multiple different parameters. So this is very powerful way of aggregating. Finally, after this grouped data frame, which I am getting, but it should be rather than calling it grouped data frame, I should say to call it group aggregated data frame. Okay, just name becomes very long, so we write group data frame. But you should always remember that with group by, immediately some aggregation must be done. So group data frame, I just round everything by up to 2 digits for better output, and then let us see what output is of it. Now this is very interesting output. That it says that department are written here. Whatever you are grouped by, that is printed slightly below rest of the columns in pandas. Okay, so that means here sales, price, etc. But you are grouping by department. That is called your key of grouping. So that key is printed here below. Okay, 4 keys: clothing, electronics, food, and home. So you are grouping by department. Now aggregating that will always be displayed. Whatever you are displaying, whatever you are aggregating over, that columns are displayed horizontally like this. So you are aggregating sales column, you are aggregating price column, and you are aggregating quantity column. So sales, price, quantity. Now what parameters you are finding? For sales, you are finding all these 5. So all these 5, these are for sales. So that means this much, if I see this much and below all that, that is the aggregation for sales. Okay. Similarly, for price, we are finding only mean median. So this much and all below the 2 columns, that is the aggregation for price. And for sum, we are finding only 1. Then that is like this. Now this is very powerful way of aggregating on the basis of some custom columns and finding some custom metrics. Otherwise, there are ready-made functions for data manipulation and aggregation which will display things, but they will not. You will not be able to control it in this way. Okay. Now the data frame is first grouped by department, and then various aggregations are performed. That is just, just whatever I explained over all last previous 10-15 minutes. Now group by quantity and calculate mode of region. This is second example. Previous was grouping by department and aggregating. Now here group by quantity and calculate mode of region. Here I am using a lambda function. So this lambda function is coming out to be once again. Okay. Now to understand what this lambda function is, let us write the equivalent of our usual function so that you will perfectly understand that lambda, just like for loop can be used to fill a empty list by certain logic. Similar, but same thing you can just by one line of code, you can do by just one line of code using list comprehension. Similarly, function can also be defined first, and then it can be applied. But same thing can be done in a on the fly function in just one line of code. So what that upper line tells, this would be the name of my function. So let us say def mode underscore function. Okay, because we define function like this and we write a colon symbol, when you enter, then immediately indentation is automatically obtained. This is the input value or the argument. So x is the argument. That means my function takes x as the argument. Then this is the first condition. If not x dot empty. Okay. So here I will write if not x dot empty. Again, if is also followed by colon, and immediately indentation will come. Then in that case, what I have to do? Return this thing, x dot mode. So return this thing if this thing is this condition. Okay. So return x dot mode. Else, that means if that condition is not obeyed, then what? So then again colon. So then return np dot none. That is return a null value. Okay. Now this function which I have written here and this which I have written on the right side, that work in exactly the same manner. Okay. So lambda function is nothing but a succinct way of writing mathematical functions. And what is the advantage that you can see? Argument here. Okay. Then condition for this is the condition for logic, that means of the function. Okay. Return value, if that logic is correct, this is the return value. But you don't even have to write the word return when you use lambda function. And if that condition is true, then this is the return value. But if that condition is false, then what is the return value? So else, and then you have to write this return. Again, here just write this. No need of word return anywhere in lambda function. So, and the name of the function is here. Of course, it is mode. Fine. Because I want to show you later on that both of these work in exactly the same manner. So currently, I will skip the execution of this cell. I will keep it this original lambda function itself. So original lambda function, and then this I am skipping, and now come to this thing. First group by quantity and calculate mode of the region. Now for mode, often we don't have a ready-made way of finding mode. So that is the reason why we had to define this mode function. Okay. And other thing is that it is the most frequent element. Mode is nothing but the most frequent element for categorical variable. For example, here uh, the food is occurring maybe once, twice, three times, four times. Okay, everything will be occur for same number of times and five times because we had taken probability equal during the creation of the data frame. But suppose that probabilities were different. That if I find over this department and then if I mean find the mode and suppose the food appears eight times, electronics appears four times, clothing appears maybe 8 and 4, 12, so three times, and home appears five times. So then in that case total there will be 20 rows, just like that. But each so whatever is appearing the maximum number of time food, that should be, that is what I want to find. Okay, here of course I don't want to find the mode of department, but I want to find the mode of region, which region appears maximum number of times. Okay, so group by quantity, and then because it is clearly given, this will always be given to you. Suppose you are appearing for an interview, then you will be given that data frame is like this, then give Python code for grouping it by quantity and calculate the mode of region. So then we have got group by quantity. Then this part is important because as I said that without writing one aggregate function, group by is practically meaningless. So then group by quantity, but then aggregate by region. Now somebody could have chosen to aggregate by something else also, maybe aggregate by department. So I am asked that calculate mode of region, so I have to aggregate by region. Now aggregate by region, but how to find mode? There is no such ready-made function like this. Okay, mean, median, etc. So you have to define your own function, which we have defined, mode function, this. Okay, so aggregate using mode function and then reset index. This reset index is required just to obtain result in a proper format. Okay, and give the name most frequent region. Okay, so let us print first and you will understand what is the meaning. Okay, so it has aggregated by quantity. So quantity is here 2, 4, 5. Okay, most frequent quantities, most frequent region by quantity sold. So two quantities are maximum sold in which region? Then two quantities are sold in, so this is quantity column, this is all these 2, 4, 6, and this is most frequent region column, west and all this, south and north and west and like that. So two quantities are sold in west region the most. Then four quantities are sold in south region. Then five quantities are sold in northwest region, and seven are sold in east region, six are north region, like that. So this is how you can get first grouping by quantity and then aggregating by region. Okay, so you are getting your answer. Is it okay? Fine. But now I want to see some special behavior of this group by function. As I said, this group by discussion will take a bit lengthier duration, so please hang on. Now I have spoken at least 2-3 times that group by without aggregation is meaningless. Yeah, first I have to show this thing. That suppose I don't use this mode function, that is lambda function, and instead I use my old function mode function, older method mode function, for which I will have to recreate my data frame. So let us recreate the data frame and let us this is just a group by department that we have already done, and that was fine. Now let us do this grouped by quantity and calculate the mode of region. So this is my mode function. I have written it from the syntax of lambda function only, but now let me see if it gives the same result or not. This result was obtained by using lambda function, so let me keep it for our record as one in one cell. Okay, and then now let us execute. This time I am executing my mode function, so I have converted back from markdown to code, and let us execute. You can see that it is having some little bit mistake. Okay, is done. Oh, here I think. Yes, you can see that it gives the same result, exactly the same result. The lower one, this one was the result obtained by lambda function. Upper one is the result obtained by conventional function. Okay, and you are getting exactly the same result. So here order may appear different. Don't worry about that. That is okay. But you should see that to and west and maybe other things. Just a minute. Yeah. Okay. North, south, west. No, this is not matching. It should match perfectly. Okay, so I think results are perfectly matching. I don't know what had happened. Maybe some. Let us first comment out this lambda function. So I'm using my old conventional mode function, and even the code which was written was also perfect. And then let us use that. So you are getting this as output. So this output I am pasting. This is by conventional function, okay, Python function. Now I am uncommenting this and commenting this out. Commenting is best way is I am converting whole cell to markdown cell, so it will not execute as a code. So mode function, and this is the output which I am getting by the lambda function, and you can see that both outputs are perfectly matching with each other. So this is the equivalent conventional Python function from lambda function. I wanted to do that discussion because this lambda function is a new concept, but it is very important concept, and it will frequently go on recurring again and again. Okay, so what is the difference between these and these is, one, this is a very succinct way of writing a function, just like list comprehension is a very succinct way of writing a for loop that fills up an empty list, or dictionary comprehension is a very succinct way of writing a for loop which fills up an empty dictionary. Similarly, this lambda function is a succinct way of writing a function. But if you are finding difficult to understand, then whenever any lambda function you see in any code, you should always put its left hand as the name of your function. Then whatever is given before this colon, that is the argument provided to the function. That is why it immediately follows with colon. So you know that in normal functions also the argument it precedes the colon. Okay. Then whatever is after the colon, that is the logic of the function. So if not x dot empty, then do this. Okay. So if not x dot empty, then do this. Else do this. And do this means here you are doing that much is not enough. You have to return that as a value, because I want to use that mode function for my aggregation purpose. Okay. So that is the reason. Now I am using my old way, and I am keeping this as markdown only, and this result I am keeping this original I am deleting. Fine. If you don't write this reset index, then what happens? Then you get the result, but its appearance, it looks different. Okay. So better would be always to write that reset index name is equal to most frequent region. Now you can see that appearance is different, and most frequent regions that are also in different order. Okay, so that you should learn to play with the code in this manner. Whenever you see this kind of line of code, then you should try to think, if I don't write reset index, what happens? If I keep reset index, what happens? And then paste both outputs one after another, and you will see that what is the function of reset index. Because these things you will not find in documentation or by writing question mark in your Jupyter notebook. These things go only with practice. Okay. Now I went on saying again and again that group by is meaningless without some aggregation. In previous case we did group by, but then we aggregated over these three numeric columns, and we found mean, median, or etc. Okay. Similarly, in this case we grouped by quantity, and we aggregated by this categorical column region. I cannot find mean of south, north, etc. clearly, so I can find only mode. So I use mode function. Of course, I had to define that function first, either by ordinary method or by lambda function method. And then once you aggregate, if you want to get the result in a particular manner, then that is fine. Otherwise, you can avoid that. Okay. So aggregate by using mode function, and then print output, so that you get this kind of output. Now, why this aggregation is always required? So that we will see in the next lecture, because otherwise this would become very long. Okay. So next lecture number 3, continues discussion on group by function. Thank you.